Good morning, how are we doing? Great. Nathan asked me like a month and a half ago if I'd do this, and at the time it seemed like a really good idea. And now that I'm standing up here, I'm just like, oh boy. Feeling a little bit nervous here, but, hopefully I made some notes here, and hopefully it'll all make sense when it's all said and done, because as I'm running through it, I'm like, this seems kind of all over the place, but we'll just go with it, and hopefully God will work through my crazy mess here. So, I grew up in Winnipeg in a Christian family, church every Sunday. We never really, God wasn't really, I would say, other than Sunday, God really wasn't a big discussion piece in our house. And and I grew up with two, I'd say, loving parents. Worked a ton, didn't have a lot of time for my sister and I. And I found that challenging. Actually, I found that maybe it hit me harder now as a parent, because I realized the time I desired to get my own kids, I was like, oh, okay. I just remember seeing now looking back on my own childhood and being like, longing for that relationship that I think my parents tried to give us but just couldn't. And that's been an ongoing journey, just even in that kind of parent-child relationship that I've been learning a lot from God about, which has been kind of cool. Growing up, I went to 7 different schools in Winnipeg, and now as an adult, I see it as a blessing because it forced me to make friends very fast, and so I feel like now as an adult I can be best friends with strangers, because I just had to adapt constantly as a kid. Saying that though, I don't actually wish that upon my own kids, because growing up it was pretty miserable, always being the new kid. I was bullied from probably grade 4 to grade 11 on varying levels of what the bullying looked like, but it was every year constant, and it definitely as an adult now is kind of like stuff I still wrestle with, even as a 40-year-old man. And when I was 15, I decided to give my life to God. I used to go to these summer camps in Manitoba every summer, and when I was 15, I decided, hey, this is the year, you know what, I want to make that declaration to God. I got baptized. That was in grade 10. In grade 11, I decided that I was going to put that journey on hold, and I was going to start a journey of drugs and a lot of vandalizing, vandalizing places in Winnipeg with my friends, because that seemed like a super awesome and fun thing to do, and an exhilarating thing at the time. I think partly part of that was because I thought I had finally found a friend group that actually cared about me. I was like, oh, they actually want to be around me and hang out with me. So the trouble that we were getting up to actually didn't seem like trouble. It seemed like, oh, this is good because someone actually cares about me. And then one day I found myself in the police station, and the police officer telling me that I was extremely lucky that the person who called it in did not want to press charges against the group that I was with. And yes, yeah, it's like that. And these supposed friends that really cared about me had thrown me under the bus and blamed me for everything. When the police had fronted the driver of our car, and I chose not to try and play the blame. I tried not to shift the blame. I just kind of took it. But it got me thinking when I left there that maybe it's time to start making better choices, because this path I'm on, it clearly isn't a good one. I gotta go by. And it's showing very little. This path is showing very little fruit. Let's say, I'll call it that. Let's say it's showing very little fruit, and I'm not finding myself in good situations here. So I decided to ditch that group, and I was back to only minimal friends, as this group was the majority of my friends at the time. Shortly after that, I graduated, and a couple years later, I found myself with a vehicle packed full of stuff and moving to Thunder Bay. From here, I had moved here to play in a band. We toured. I was in a touring band for 4 years. We toured Canada multiple times. We went to the Caribbean, went to Europe a couple times. And I was like, that's it. We've made it. This is the journey. We're going to do this full time. This is what I've been trying to do for the last few years. And then came the first child. One of my bandmates had their first child, and you could tell this was the beginning of the end. It was practicing less, playing less. And so there was a part of me that felt kind of empty, because I was like, this is what I had given my life to for so many years. I moved to Thunder Bay for this reason, or so I had thought, not knowing God had another plan. And during that time, to make up, to find something to do while the band was kind of slowly fading away, I found this love for photography starting to grow, not really thinking it would turn into anything. I also got married to my wife at that time, my lovely wife, who also is from Winnipeg and was willing to take a risk and join me here in Thunder Bay, which I'm very grateful for. I'd say the last 8 or 9 years for Shay and I have been like, it's been an interesting journey, and I would say that there's been good moments, but I would say the grand big picture, it has felt like hardship after hardship, if I'm completely honest. I know hardships we all face them, and they all look different for all of us. Some hardship may seem minimal, but for some others, that hardship may seem like it's a mountain too big to climb. But it has felt just super challenging, and just when we overcome a challenge, it just feels like there's another wave of a new challenge coming that was like, geez, can we get a break here? Like we just got over this last one here. So and during that time, we've also had we also became parents to 3 incredible kids that we are so thankful for. My daughter asked me a couple years ago what I wanted to be when I grew up, and as a 40-year-old man, I'm still trying to figure that out. One thing I've come to really enjoy, and it feels so simple when I think about the way God works, but yet in my own stubborn and short-sighted view sometimes, I've come to this one thing, and whether the thing I'm doing is big and grand or small and meaningless in the world's eyes, I just want to do it for Jesus. I love people. That is something, as I look back on my life, that I can see has been percolating inside of me. Coffee reference for Nathan. Wish you were here, buddy. But more than anything, I can't deny this love that I've had for the people that this world deems undeserving of love and forgiveness. Just me, buddy. You're doing so good. A desire to spend more time in rough neighborhoods, prisons, people battling addiction, etc. Those kind of things. If you don't know our story, my wife and I, 2 of our 3 kids are adopted. Our son up here, who's with me, his mom passed away from a drug overdose, his birth mom. And that rocked my wife and I pretty hard. We never got to meet her because she just couldn't bring herself to a place to meet us, and which I completely understand. But my wife and I felt great heartache and sorrow for a woman we had never met. And I just find these are the people and the places my heart longs to be more than anything. And sometimes I feel frustrated because I can't spend more time in those places or with those people. And that's okay, because as the Israelites reminded us, sometimes you got to walk the desert for a couple years. And so these passions and desires and places I want to spend more time have not been possible lately, but I know that God will bring a season when I have time for that. And so I just I take heart and cherish knowing that there will be a time when our kids are older and I'll have more free time to do those things that I desire to do. I really feel like He has put on my heart. And then the other thing I wanted to say was with regards to like spending more time on the streets and being in the prisons. We used to do that here with a few people at church before COVID hit. That also brings me to the fact that I have 2 or 3 tattoos, and these tattoos, I don't know when my love for tattoos happened, but I knew that I wanted a lot, and I wanted them to be a message of hope and a message of God's love, and a way that I could share the gospel and my story with people who resonated with them. And so for me, that's part of the reason for them. Sometimes people are like, why do you have all these tattoos? It's like, I know God can use me without tattoos. I don't have to have tattoos for God to use me. Okay, go see Mama then. She'll help you with the water. But I have learned over the years that with having these tattoos, and even having them in more extreme places, the most extreme so far is my head, but my throat, my hands, my fingers, there's this I've just noticed there's this unspoken respect and appreciation and acceptance that people off the street, or people in the prisons, or people that maybe seem a little more rough around the exterior, I've just noticed there's just this I don't know, people feel like, I don't know if it's at peace, who can relate to them, or just like, I don't know anything about this guy, but he's got all these tattoos, so I feel like I can relate because I got tattoos. And so that's kind of one of the reasons why I got them. This, just a quick little story here. I was in Rainco's a couple years ago. I just got on my throat tattooed, which it says, it's hard to read, but it says grace, and that one being that we were saved by grace. And this guy, I don't know if he had spent time in the prison, but the first thing out of his mouth with a big smile, he had asked me, he's like, hey, did you do time in Stony, which is a maximum security prison in Manitoba outside of Winnipeg? And my heart was so full. I just kind of gave God this little like high five inside. I was like, yes, this is exactly what I want. It's like we are rocking 2 very different paths, but that you felt welcomed, you felt accepted, and you never had met me, didn't even know my name, but you felt like you could just talk to me. And I'm like, these are the things I love about having these tattoos, is because they just open doors, and people are just willing to talk about God, even if they didn't go into the conversation knowing that that's what it was going to be about. And I just that's kind of a bit about my story here. I just want to read one verse here, and that is John 16:33, and it says, I have told you all this so that you may have peace in me. Here on earth you will have many trials and sorrows, but take heart, because I have overcome the world. And one of my biggest desires and prayers have been that I want to take heart more. I want to take heart in God, not when I'm conquering mountain peaks and life is good and everything's going amazing, but when I'm in the depths. It's all good, buddy. It's when I'm in the depths of the valleys, when I can't see my own hands in front of me because it's so dark, and I'm so overwhelmed by life situations. I want to take heart in those moments. I want to be joyful, and I want to be able to dance because I know Jesus. When there's no reason to dance, because I need to remember that I'm living for an audience of one. I'm not living for money. I'm not living for fame. I'm not living for what the world deems success. Thanks, buddy. I'm living for Him, and that's no matter what I'm going through, I want to be joyful, and even in amongst the sorrow and the frustration of certain times, be able to kind of work through and accept that whatever frustration or hardship we're going through is happening, and then be able to be like, okay, take a deep breath and be like, God is with me. He's been here the whole time, and He's not leaving me. So I can take heart knowing that, and know that whatever we face, we'll overcome it, because we live for a God who is just so incredibly kind and caring and generous and loving and patient. Thank you.